Hi, this is Grania, play therapist from All Aboard Therapy Services. I have been doing a series of videos, and you're welcome to watch the others, about storytelling and books, therapeutic stories that we may use in play therapy or other creative arts therapies, or indeed in psychotherapy, creative counselling. Today, I want to focus on something that I get asked about quite a lot. And I would have used these particular books, especially in my work with children with experience of the care system, children who may be in foster care, whose families, biological or birth families, were not able to look after them for whatever reason, children who have not been kept safe. So in Ireland, we have TUSLA, and I've worked extensively with TUSLA across different counties. Um, and some of these books would be the type of resources that I would use with some of those clients. Sometimes, as well as parents, we may have a concern that a child is not aware enough of being able to keep themselves safe, and that is another way that these books can be used as a preventative tool for anything going wrong in the child's life, and that, God forbid, if something unsafe did happen to the child, they know how to react to it. So without scaremongering or without, scaring children, I do think it's very important for them to have, some idea around what is consent, what is safe, what adults should and should not do with children, what happens if somebody makes you uncomfortable or something bad happens. I think they're very important lessons to give any child. So, some of the books that I would recommend, this one is Your Body Belongs to You. It's by Cornelia Spellman. And I think this one is kind of an older book. I've had this one for quite a few years, but hopefully it's still in print. I'm just looking. Yeah, it's 1997, but some of the information in it is still very relevant. So it kind of talks about consent, and it talks about giving consent for hugs and kisses, that it's okay, even to a relative, to say, no, I don't want to have a hug right now. No, I don't want to have a kiss. And if someone pursues that and still doesn't understand, that you can go and ask your parent or another grown up to help you say, no, like not right now. I'm not comfortable with this, whatever it might be. It also explains here that, there's a lot of situations where we always, would explain to children that there's parts of their bodies that should not be touched by anybody else when they're children. And there might be exceptions to that. So, for example, in this, it's the doctor examining the child. So it says some places on your body should never be touched by other people, except when you need help in the bathroom or getting dressed or when you go to the doctor. I have children with quite high medical needs. They have genetic conditions, so we would deal quite a lot with hospitals. And I have to say that in the majority of cases, the doctors now are very aware of consent and safety, and children that may have a history of trauma, protecting children from sexual abuse or neglect or physical abuse. So most of the doctors will be very aware of child protection, and they'll come and ask my children, is it okay for me to raise up your top and look at your belly? And they'll explain, this is what's happening, and a child can understand it. Unfortunately, I have recently, come across a doctor where my mama bear instincts really kicked in. The doctor, I've come across it a couple of times actually with male doctors, and they did not explain to the child in understandable terms what they were about to do. They did not ask for consent. They did not use correct anatomical names. Children need to know what their body parts are called in order to be safe. So if you're in a situation, it is okay to advocate for your child, and it is okay to say, you need to ask them. Same as we would do for an adult. You need to ask them, is it okay to examine them? You need to ask them before you, pull up their top or pull down their trousers or take their sock off, whatever it might be. It's just basic respect, and it's teaching children about consent. This is another book. Again, this is kind of an older one that I would use a lot. A Safety Guide for Young Children, Feeling Happy, Feeling Safe. And it's by Michelle Elliott. This book, like parts of it probably are a little bit outdated, but some of the themes are still very good. I do find with some of these kind of more older books that some of them are a bit heteronormative, and there's always talk of a mum and a dad, which is not very inclusive. Um, but it's just to bear in mind that some of these books might be older. So in this book, it talks about feeling safe. If you have a bad feeling about somebody, that it's okay to trust your gut instinct. It talks about, being in playgrounds and being kept safe, or if somebody hurts you by accident, and expecting people to apologize and say sorry. It talks about, how do you know when you feel safe? How do you know when you feel happy? Who do you feel safe with? It goes through the scenario about getting lost and what to do. So if you got lost in a shopping centre, you got separated from a parent, what can you do if you feel unsafe? So, going to a trusted adult, whether that is an aunt, an uncle, a parent, a teacher, a social worker, whoever it might be. It talks about saying no, which I think is really important as well. And again, another lesson around consent. It talks about, somebody that you don't know, and it talks about, what is a stranger. Now, again, some of this might be a little bit outdated because we do know now that unfortunately stranger danger is not generally appropriate because statistically abuse, neglect, all different types of abuse, emotional, sexual, physical, it generally happens by somebody who's known to the child in their life and by somebody that the child has trusted. So, and doesn't that make it even worse that their trust has been violated? So it's not generally strangers that we need to educate our children about, to kind of be afraid of. There's also a whole section here about secrets. So secret is something that I often talk to parents and social workers and teachers about, that children need to understand that secrets should never be kept. An adult should never ask a child to keep a secret. And we need to be careful with our language around that as well, I think. But secrets, it's not a child's responsibility to keep a secret, and a safe adult does not ask a child to keep secrets, especially if it's about something like being touched inappropriately, anything that made you feel uncomfortable, being shouted at, seeing something that maybe was not appropriate for a child to see, being hit, anything like that. Anything that an adult is asking a child to keep secret is generally not appropriate. Another book that I have here is A Terrible Thing Happened. This is by Margaret Holmes. In this book, it never actually says what the terrible thing is that happened. So this can be very useful in play therapy for children, who have lots of experiences of what we call ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. So that can be loads of different types of trauma, anything negative that has happened in their life. A lot of children can really, really relate to this book, and it's really kind of a story that's done in a child appropriate way, but can be very useful to just open up some discussions. Coming back again to the theme of secrets, this is another book that I find very useful. Do You Have a Secret? By Jennifer Moore Malinos. And again, it talks about secrets can be fun to keep if the secret is something that makes you happy and everybody else happy. However, the difference between bad secrets and good secrets. I personally don't use the word secret at all with children as much as I can help it, but it talks about if you have a secret that hurts you, a secret that makes you sad or scares you, that's when you'd feel much better if you talk about it to somebody you trust. But it's best for you to be brave and talk about it. When you do, the problem can be made go away. So again, I would use this book with children even in preschools, creches, infant classes, because it's really good to educate them that there's bad secrets and there's good secrets and what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. So again, really relevant to child protection, prevention of any type of abuse, and just educating children and families as well about the language that we use, the risks that may be there, and how to, eliminate those risks and make sure that children are kept safe. Thanks a million for listening, and I hope this has been helpful. If you'd like to get in touch, my website is www.allaboardtherapy.ie. My email address is allaboardplaytherapy@gmail.com. My phone number is 087 1475877. If you go onto the website, you'll also see my Facebook page as well. Please feel free to get in touch if you'd like to further on this discussion or give me any feedback.